Well, Kailyn, thank you so much for being here with me on the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. I'm really excited to have you here because, like I said, we're approaching the end of the year slowly but surely, can't believe it. And a lot of people are really getting to a point for like, oh, how am I going to manage my time? Which is something that we're definitely going to dive into today. However, before we get started with that, why don't I hand over to you so you can introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm excited to be here today and talk on the topic of, figuring out that ideal schedule for yourself. But to give some context around that, I am a business coach. I've been coaching since 2015. I am also a mom. I have two young daughters, an almost 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I have a 3-day work week, which I know sounds very enviable and like this magical unicorn of a schedule, but it really started out because I wanted to have time with my girls. And so it was a very conscious decision. And now I find that a lot of my clients come to me when wanting to work with me because they want to figure out how they can do the work they love while also having a life they love outside of doing that work. And so it's really a wonderful privilege that I get to work with amazing women from all over the world. And what I teach specifically to help them get to that level is I work with a lot of one-on-one coaches, and I teach them how to transition to a high ticket group offer. And that's not how I started. I started one-on-one. I did that for the first few years of my business. But what really got my 3-day work week singing and feeling really good was making that transition to a high ticket group offer. And so that's where I am at now. That's the coaching that I do and the women that I work with. But I'm really excited today to share all the wisdom I possibly can and things I've learned over the last 6 years navigating this 3-day work week while also being a mom and, all the other things that come with that.
Yes, and I love that, and which is why I'm so excited. I love meeting other business coaches like yourself because there's something so powerful in helping people just getting to that point from, whew, you don't have to work all of this time. And there are ways to strategize and put everything together where you can work with high ticket clients and not doing it on a one-on-one basis. So I love the fact that you're offering that and helping women with that. So for those of you who are out there who are coaches, Kailyn is the lady to go to because she can help you get those high ticket clients, but in group format. So you can obviously monetize your time a bit better as well. But Kailyn, I'm a little bit interested. How did you get started as a business coach? What was that journey like for you? And how did that end up to where you are now?
Yes. Oh, goodness. It's a long and winding road. And I won't go into all the detours that I, happened upon, but I've been an entrepreneur for, oh, goodness, a good almost 15 years now, right out of college. I never wanted to sit at a desk all day doing work that felt mundane. And so I set off on my own trying to figure out what my thing was, air quotes there. And I hit on a bunch of different occupations and career paths. And I went from blogging to teaching yoga to doing freelance writing to interior design. I tried a bunch of different things. And what I realized in the doing of that was that I had accumulated quite a skill set of what it takes to market yourself, to define your niche, to start, figuring out your brand, your messaging. And that I really loved that. It was like fun. Each time I'd start this new business or business project, it would be really exciting for me. And then I happened upon the coaching world back in 2014, 2015. And I didn't really even know it existed prior to that there was this space of women supporting women and, holding space for personal growth and business development. And it just really excited me. And so when I first started, because it felt, I had to help people with what I had lived up to that point, I started out with clarity coaching. And so it was really just holding space for women to share what was on their heart and trying to help them figure out the first steps towards creating a business, because I had done that multiple times over. And then over the years, it has progressed into kind of that format, right? You teach what you know and teach what you've experienced. And so my business has developed and grown as I have developed and grown as a business owner. And my 3-day work week entered into the picture when I became a mom, because First of all, I didn't want to be working 5 days a week because I had this adorable little baby I wanted to hang out with. And I thought that the idea of a 4-day weekend sounded amazing. But it was also a practical choice because of childcare expenses and what we were able to do on that front. And so I thought, if I can figure this out where I can work as a coach, which sounds like dream job, while I'm doing it just 3 days a week. And I didn't have any grandiose expectations of, making, 6 figures or multiple 6 figures, which, was a benefit down the road. But it just seemed like, if I could make some nice money and contribute to the family finances, doing work that really lit me up 3 days a week, it just sounded awesome. And luckily for me, by that point, I had grown enough of a community and, focused on those important things all throughout that when I launched into coaching, I did start getting a trickle of clients and I was able to build it up from there. And, I've had a 6-figure business since 2016 and I probably worked less hours every year, even though I still have the 3-day work week, the work day has shrunk down to kind of, work with the school schedule.
Yeah. Oh, I love your story. And it's so heartwarming and inspiring to hear in so many ways, because it just shows that you didn't just start off as a business coach and it's like, hey, I'm hitting the road running and I'm making a success of it immediately. There are so many other facets. You try different things and you enjoy different things, but evidently, so many different doors opened up for you and led you to where you are now. And this is what I love about the journey of an entrepreneur, of a business owner, is whatever you're doing now, you might not be doing that in 5 years' time. Something else, another opportunity might have come your way and you would have completely moved into that direction. But it's the idea that you're experiencing, that you're taking the action, you're going for it. And I think that's what I would love the audience to listen out to. It's like, one glove doesn't fit all, okay? You've got to go on a journey. Heavens know what that journey is going to look like for you, but just go on it. Whatever business you've got now, it might change, or you might just say, this is it. This is the one thing I finally realized I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about how can I say this? It's really about just managing our time better. And you said that obviously you work 3 days a week. Now, for some people listening to this, they're going like, oh my gosh, 3 days a week, I wouldn't be able to possibly get anything done in 3 days in comparison to the 5 days where I still can't get everything done. So talk to us a little bit about how we can create a schedule where we honor our time and also our energy, which I love.
Yes, I know, because so many people use the term time management, and I really intentionally try not to use that too much, because I think honestly, as women, we handle a lot and we don't need to manage it better. Usually we're actually pretty adept at managing all the stuff that's coming at us. But what we often neglect is managing our energy and honoring our energy and noticing, when are we pushing ourselves to the brink? Are we skipping lunch to fit in more work? Are we getting to the end of the day and, trying to cook dinner while still answering emails on our phone? So for me, I think the first thing that is important to recognize is that this isn't about necessarily like packing your day so full, let's say you do want a 3-day work week, packing that day so full that it's bursting at the seams. And then you get to the other side of your 3 days and you're exhausted and you just want to take a 4-day nap. This is really about creating an intentional schedule that honors you and your life and your business and your family's needs and all of those things. And so that's going to look different for everyone. And I've always made that very clear whenever I'm working with my clients or speaking about my 3-day work week, that, it would be very cool if the whole world had a 3-day work week, if that was the norm. But I think what's more important is that we figure out the schedule that works for us and where we're at this season of life. And that's always changing. I'm at a point where I've got 2 team members. I have, my main offer is a group offer. It's a mastermind. And so I'm able to create a lot more white space in my calendar. And perhaps there's some women listening and some people listening who are at that place where they're like, you know what, I'm full up with one-on-one clients. Maybe it is time for me to rethink, instead of doing one-to-one, do a one-to-many offer and making that transition. if you're brand new, and that's where I started, right? As a coach, I didn't come with like a full docket of clients. I built up to that. And so in the beginning, it's about really thinking intentionally about where you can fit those clients into your schedule, how many clients you can actually carry to hit the revenue goals, but are you reaching for something that doesn't make sense with the lifestyle goals, and really finding something that feels as harmonious as possible each step of the way.
Yeah. And I love how you put that together, because here's the thing, we all only have 24 hours in a day, right? So the fact that you're saying time management, I completely agree with you. It's not about managing the time. The time's there, okay? It's about managing your energy. And I think, what you're saying there rings very true to me, because this is something that took me a while as well to zone in on, so to speak. I used to get up in the morning and I was so active and I got things done. Lunchtime, had lunch. And then after lunch, you're like, oh, I'm so tired. I can't do anything for the rest of the day. But then you still had calls, you still had meetings, networking events, all those kind of things. And then by the end of the day, you're just exhausted. You go, oh my gosh, I've got to do the same thing again tomorrow. So basically what you're doing, even though you're working for yourself, you're just putting yourself in a position where you become an employee for yourself. You're working yourself to the bone, but it's about your energy. And I do agree with that. I spoke to somebody actually the other day, and she said, you need to kind of figure out when's your energy the most active? When do you have the most energy? For me personally, it's first thing in the morning. Spoke to another girl and she's like, 6 o'clock, my energy is sky high. 6 p.m. I can easily work from 6 p.m. to 12 p.m. And I'm like, really? Well, that's my downtime. But it just shows how different people are. But you've got to tap into what works for you. When is your energy at the best levels so you can do proper work rather than just dragging yourself to get through every day feeling still like you haven't done anything at the end of the day because your energy just wasn't right.
Yes. And I went through those growing pains myself. I mean, it was amazing having a 3-day work week because I did have a 4-day weekend to recoup with. But I also, I started that with my first daughter. I then very shortly thereafter got pregnant with my second daughter, and having a full day, just like you, my best hours in the morning. I always make sure my clients identify what their best hours are so they can capitalize on them for their creative needs. And then I was booking myself with clients until 5 or 6 at night and starting at 9 in the morning, which, is a typical day, but I was exhausted. I was super pregnant. I was having back-to-back calls. And that was a really profound thing to notice, that my energy it just drops off at around 3 o'clock. It's like, I have my lunch. I have about a good hour and a half after that. And then I'm done. I'm like, okay, I need to step away. My eyes are glazing over from looking at the screen and I need to shift. And that's the perfect time, honestly, for me, because my girls are getting back from camp or school or, play dates or things like that. And so it is so, so important to figure out what those best hours are and do your best to allow that to be enough too, that you don't have to then say, all right, well, I got in my good hours, but I need to add on another 3 or 5 or 7 just to get through this to-do list of 50 things. I think it's more important to capitalize on those best hours, make progress in 1 or 2 things, and then step away. You're not going to be as productive if you're just pushing yourself. Yeah.
So do you have a couple of tips that you can share with the audience about what they need to do if they were to look at their calendars and they're looking at their work week, whether it's 5 days, 4 days, 3 days? Do you have a couple of tips as to what they need to do in order to make sure that they don't get to a point of pure exhaustion at the end of every single day, and just maybe even think about, hey, maybe I can work 4 out of 5 days or 3 out of 5 days?
Yes, absolutely. So I have a really fun tip and then a more it's really, really helpful, but it's not as fun and sexy. So the fun tip is, first, just dream up what that ideal work week would look like. Don't worry if it's feasible or probable or you could do it tomorrow, but just what would that look like? Would it be working during school hours from 9 to 3 or 9 to 2 while your kids are out of the house? Would it be 6 to midnight because those are your best hours? Would it be a 3-day work week? Would it be no work on Fridays? and how you would spend those hours. You'd have no calls in the morning because you want to just use that for creative space, and you'd have a call or two in the afternoon. Just lay it all out on paper, and add in the other stuff too. Like, I'd love to get a massage once in a while, or I would love to go for lunch with my girlfriends, or, get out in the morning and walk in the neighborhood, or whatever it is. Put it all down on paper, sort of like your schedule vision board, so that you know what you're aspiring to. Then the practical thing is to do a bit of a time inventory. And I did this really old school when I first started my 3-day work week. I had a notepad next to my computer, a pen, and I set a timer on my phone for an hour. And every time it went off, every hour, I'd jot down what I had done to the best of my memory during that previous hour. And I soon saw how much I was bouncing around from one task to another, or I'd have the intention of going on Instagram or Facebook to do something very business related. And then I'd get sucked down a rabbit hole, or I would change something on my website and then wind up changing 50 other things. And I soon began to see where I was leaking time and leaking energy. And then I took one step further and sort of rated everything on that sheet. Did I like it? And was I good at it? Did I like it? Was I good at it? Did I not like it? And was I bad at it? And when I saw how many things I was doing that I didn't like and I wasn't that good at, those were the first things I hired my VA for. And I hired her for, I think it was like 10 hours a month. It was not very much time. I made up a little job description of all the things that I didn't like and wasn't good at. And that's what I hired her for. And that freed up some time and energy. So that time inventory is really practical in a bunch of senses. Maybe you're not at a place where you're ready to hire or want to hire, but you can at least begin to batch things together. Like, oh, all this admin stuff that's sprinkled throughout my day. Maybe I could do, a half hour in the morning, a half hour at the end of the day, and not let it interrupt my flow so much. Oh, my client calls, I've got one here and one there. It's all random. Maybe I could get my clients all into one day or 2 afternoons so that that's more consolidated. And this isn't, again, something that you need to change overnight, but you can start looking at that, visionary schedule, that ideal schedule, and your current schedule, the way you're using your time, and see where you can make those incremental upgrades. And so if, let's say you have a full 5-day week and you'd love to have a 3-day week, maybe you need to start with just taking a half day on Friday or Fridays off to move in that direction, or every other Friday off. And it's not about immediately cutting down from 40, 50, 60 hours to 20, but how can we begin to move in the direction with those incremental upgrades?
Yeah. And I love that, because you know what? I never did an inventory myself. I kind of thought, like you said, what does my work week look like and what do I want it to look like? But I never took inventory up until, I think it was at one point last year, somebody mentioned to me, so what do you spend most of your time? And I was like, I have no idea. And it's like, just have a pen and a notebook and just start writing things down as you do them. And I did exactly like you did. And I was like, oh my gosh, why am I doing these things that I don't really like doing, but I'm just in the moment and I just do things. And also the other thing is I noted how much time I was wasting just on, excuse my language, crappy stuff that did me no good. And that's where my energy got sucked out again by doing all of these things. And then by the time I finally say, okay, got to put my head down and do this one thing I've been trying to do all day, I've got no energy left. It was completely gone. So that was a big eye opener for me. So I highly recommend, for those of you listening, you need to do an inventory, but first start off with, like Kailyn said, start off with dreaming what that week would look like for you. What is it that you really want? Whether it's, achievable or not, doesn't matter. What is that week that you really want to have in your working schedule on a day-to-day basis? I love that, because for me particular, what I do is Friday afternoons, I book myself out. That is what I call my brainstorm days, my days of just educating myself, whether it's reading a book, whether it's doing a course, whether it's, any updating myself, my knowledge that I need to do. That is my afternoon off. And since I've been doing that, it almost feels like I'm treasuring myself and I'm going, yeah, I'm doing this for myself. This is my little time where that I'm looking forward to on a Friday, as an example. And you feel that you're valuing yourself as well. You're putting yourself up there and you're not pushing yourself down and giving yourself the last rein, basically.
Yes, completely. And also when we start our businesses, it's because we want more freedom, more opportunity to do things that we want for ourselves. And when we're running ourselves ragged, trying to work all the hours, possible hours of the day, it kind of defeats the purpose of having a business that you want, because you could probably honestly take it a little easier and just work at some other job and have the same hours. But I think the lifestyle piece, we undervalue sometimes or under consider the lifestyle aspect of success. Yes, it's all amazing to have a 6-figure, 7-figure coaching business, or whatever your business is, but if you are sacrificing every moment of possible enjoyment or pleasure in order to get there, for me, that's not true success. And for maybe some people it is. It's like, I'm all about work. That's all I want to think about. I, don't want to spend time with my family or whatever it is. But for me, success is more than just the money. And my time is so valuable and so important to me. And so I think that making that a clear priority from the beginning has really helped me not build a monster of a business that's just eaten up all my time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this works very nicely hand in hand with the mindset aspect. And I want to ask you a little bit about this, because we have a tendency, especially in business, to create stories for ourselves that aren't always true. And they create these kind of blocks so we can't move forward. Just as an example, I just said in the beginning, people would be listening to this going, I can't work, 3 days out of 5. I need 5 days. I can't get things done in 3 days. I need all 5 days. And even then still, we'd be so surprised that some of these mental blocks that we have is stopping us from making decisions that would only lead us to have a better life and a better business. So tell us a little bit from your experience, what is the mindset behind all of this? And what can you tell the audience in order just to help them just kind of make a little bit of a, how can I say, a change, a shift almost?
Yeah, I think we touched on it a little bit, saying that it's not just like defining what success really means to you. I think we've absorbed from society and other people what success means, and it's often a lot of hustle and push, and it's about money. And money for sure is an aspect of success for, I'd say, 99% of us. But what else is there? What is the flavor of success for you? And if that means having a more flexible schedule, or Fridays off, or a 3-day work week, or more quality time with your children where you're not on your phone trying to get work stuff done, that can't be discounted, whether you are making $100 a month or $100,000 a month. It has to be something that you intentionally put in there. And so for me, mindset has always been a huge piece of my personal journey as a business owner. And I also just kind of naturally bring it into my coaching too, because I feel like it's all one and the same as we're looking to put ourselves and our passion into a business. We can't often get around some of these obstacles and stories that we've been carrying with us for a long time. And so for me, I think a really big shift that a lot of us need to consider is the value of our time. We've been kind of taught that money is valuable, but our time isn't necessarily. It's like, well, you've got to work and hustle 24/7. You got to put in the time. You've got to there's a lot of that kind of messaging that you've got to sacrifice your time in order to get to where you want to go. And I like to challenge that and consider, well, what if we don't have to sacrifice our time, or at least not all of the time, in order to get there? I'm all for action. I'm all for going after for what you want. But if it's compromising the quality of your life, I don't think that it'll feel good for very long if you're doing it that way. So for me personally, when it comes to mindset, I'm always reading books that inspire me and open me up in new ways. At different times, I've followed different teachers that have inspired me, and, listening to podcasts, and just, I try to keep sort of a baseline of support in that area, because I think it's something that without it, I know my tendency is to spiral off in a more rigid, kind of hard direction where success gets very serious and I'm serious about my business, and that's not fun. And I think, we all deserve a little fun, and that our businesses don't have to be so serious and so hard all of the time. And so I would encourage everyone, if mindset is something you think you need to work on, begin to pay attention to the things that are coming out of your mouth. And maybe you're at the point where they're not coming out of your mouth anymore, but they're still playing in your head. Like the example you gave of, oh my gosh, like I never have enough time. I never have enough time. If that's what you're saying, you're going to keep looking for examples all around you that you don't have enough time. It's just the way our brains work. It's confirmation bias. It's science. It's just what happens. Where if we start to shift that to, I think I have enough time for this. I'll get this done. I think I have enough time, to maybe even I have enough time, to maybe I have more than enough time. You can progress down, and you'll keep shifting into that belief that you're working on, the belief you're curating.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying, because there is that kind of belief and mindset that puts upon us. And also it's a story that you get told. And I think it comes from childhood, where, the harder you work, the more you'll get. The harder you work, the more success you'll get. And it's so not true. It's so not true. It's draining. And oh my gosh, I think we just got to say to society, just stop telling your kids to say the harder you work, the more you'll get. That's not the case. It's really about just figuring out, like you say, what it is that you're telling yourself, what it is that you're thinking, and then start changing that. Start changing that to another concept and say, yes, I've got more time. Yes, this is what I see, and this is what I can do. And the more you say that to yourself, the more you'll be surprised to actually get to a point where you go, oh, I can actually do this. It's like anything. If you say you can't do it, who's it? Warren Buffett who said this. If you said you can't do it, you can't. If you said you can do it, you can. Either way, you're right.
Exactly.
Something like that. I think I messed that up, but I'm thinking everybody would get that.
Yeah, the spirit of it was there.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, Warren Buffett. I completely messed that up. But at the end of the day, it's about your belief, and it's about what you're telling yourself. And like you said, you started educating yourself, you're reading books, you're listening to podcasts, but also what I would like to tell the audience is get a mentor, get a coach, somebody as well who can help you, who can motivate you, keep that inspiration going. Pick up on things that you don't even pick up on yourself anymore because you're so used to that behavior. And this is where I find that the work that Kailyn does in particular is so fundamental, because she helps people to see things that they are not seeing anymore, or that they don't pay attention to. And she's helping them with new strategies, with new plans, how to get their time back, how to monetize their time, but still grow their business, having that free time, but still grow their business. So it's really important to know and understand that you can do anything, you can become anything, whatever it is that you want, but you've got to start changing your mindset and telling yourself that this is what you can do and this is what you can achieve. And only then will things start slowly happening, and you've got to take the action. Very, very important.
Absolutely. Well said.
Right. Now, you have got something really amazing for the audience. Talking about what we said, managing your time, you've got a freebie available. So why don't I hand over to you so you can tell the audience a little bit about this freebie?
Sure, of course. Yeah, I've brought with me my 3-day workweek schedule. It's a free download, and it's really, really helpful. I know talking about schedule, I know for me, I like to see something visual that I can really get into, sink my teeth into, analyze. And so this was exactly that. It has my schedule as I had it when I first started coaching. So with my one-on-one sessions in there, Something that you'll see in there that I think is worth mentioning is I structured my time with an A week and a B week. And so my A week, I had all my coaching calls. On my B week, I left it open. So even though I was dealing with a lot of coaching calls on my A week, my B week gave me some breathing room to work on other aspects of the business. So when you get in there, you'll see that it explains exactly how to implement that in your own business, and lots of other tips, and also a template for you to begin kind of playing with what I was talking about earlier of, identifying and visualizing your ideal work week. So that is a free download. I hope all of you grab it and enjoy it, and hopefully it serves you.
Amazing. And thank you so much for making that available to the audience, because I think everybody, just need a little bit of help as we're getting towards the end of the year, where people feel like it's just too much is being added onto my plate. I need to look at my timing and need to look at where my energy is at their best, especially if you've been listening or watching this podcast. I know that you're going to go and download it. So the link is below in my show notes, available for you. And then also in the show notes, I have Kailyn's Instagram account details and also her website details there. So you can get in contact with her there. If you would like to get in touch with her, I'm sure she'd be more than happy to have a chat with you either way, if you need any more information. So Kailyn, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on today. Is there any last quick tips that you want to share with the audience before we say goodbye?
Sure. Yeah, I'll pull something out of my bag of goodies here. I think what is really important to remember, and it kind of sums up a lot of what we were talking about, is the journey that you're on, the everyday that you're living, has to align with the destination of where you want to go. And so if you're picturing this, beautiful business that gives you lots of time with your loved ones, that you can travel and relax and have a 3-day work week or whatever schedule feels good for you, you can't get there by hustling and stressing and pushing and working all the hours all the time and sacrificing all those things you say that you want. And so do what you can today to begin shifting in your lifestyle, in your behavior, and the way you're showing up towards that destination. And granted, the destination shifts and changes and we get there and there's a new destination. But for the purposes of this, I think it's really important to remember that the energy you have now has to align with where you're hoping to go.
Yeah, I love how you said that. That is so true. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for coming on today's podcast and sharing your expertise and just helping the audience out to getting a little bit better around their scheduling, and hopefully some of those who's listened here today is going to go, right, I've made my decision. Now I'm going to start only, working 3 days a week and sorting myself out. So if that is you, if you've made that decision, please do it and get in touch and let me and Kailyn know how you got on, because we'd love to hear your feedback. Kailyn, again, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure you and I will be in touch fairly soon again.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Take care.